We are moving into the final stages of our deep dive into the feminine spiral of creation. A quick reflection to bring you up to speed with the first 3 stages. Firstly, surrender into the feminine within you. Then, once there, open up the body, mind, psyche, and senses, all of your beingness to play, the second phase. Then, at a certain point, you will have mastered something through your play, and you will want to get visible, the third phase. This video is a deep dive into the 4th and final stage that you will enter after you've got visible, response, which is something you'll want to elicit at this point, and it's also something that will naturally happen given how far you've come to reach this final stage. Responding, of course, requires that there is something to respond to, which means there has to be one and other. The other could be anything really, rocks, trees, animals, but for the sake of simplicity in this video, let's call the other a person. In responding, you enter into a process of relating with the other person. You come to know them on a deeper level, and in that moment of connection, come to learn something about the nature of relating itself. So what is responding in the context of the feminine spiral of creation? As covered in the previous videos, the feminine spiral of creation is the means by which feminine energy comes to know herself more deeply. She witnesses who she is through the eyes of herself and the eyes of others. It's this process that spirals her into the truth of her own wholeness, and in reality, the way by which she comes to see that there is no separation between her and source point energy. This is a journey that she's on, in you, through you, and so why is response, or responding to, the final step of the feminine spiral of creation? Because the word response is about relating, which is the basis of this reality. Or to put it another way, there is nothing about this reality that is not relating. Everything about 3D reality is about being in relationship with everything else around you. Let's recall that in this video, we learned that source point splits upon entry into this reality and becomes masculine and feminine energies. These 2 energies then further subdivide into smaller and smaller fractals, not unlike cells splitting in the body. So everything is source energy, and everything is imbued with both masculine and feminine energy to some degree or another. And these masculine and feminine aspects, as well as all of the further subdivisions of masculine and feminine energy, are all relating with each other. So, for example, dark masculine is relating with light masculine, and both of these are relating with dark and light feminine, and all of these are relating with each other. This means there are parts inside of you that are relating with other parts that are inside of you, and all parts inside of you are relating with all parts inside of others. At its core, every aspect of self is relating with every other aspect of reality, although technically it's all part of the one self, which is the original source point. Through this process of relating, the original source point is seeing itself, which is the whole reason why it even bothered to create and infuse itself into this reality in the first place. So, as the feminine is spiraling inward and coming to know herself, she is essentially the feminine aspect of source witnessing itself through the eyes of others, which are full to the brim with source awareness, consciousness, and perception. Inside the witness at that point of seeing, there are frameworks, beliefs, thoughts, experiences, and a whole host of other things that the feminine is now relating with through being seen. If the expression is authentic enough and appropriately vibrating at the resonance of those specific frameworks inside the person witnessing, then something inside of them will begin to move in response. We commonly say that thing moved me or that thing touched me, which is us essentially saying source energy flow through the expression of that person and into me, suspending in that moment what isn't true, which helped me remember who I am and where I came from. This all happens on a deep templated level, so we often can't find the words to describe it, but we feel it. The response tells you how authentic your expression is in that moment, because the more moving the response, the more source energy you've allowed to flow through and move out from you. It also tells the witness the nature of the frameworks, beliefs, and limitations that live inside of them, because what moves one person will not always move another person. If they are unmoved, their beliefs and frameworks haven't been shook to reveal the light at the core of who they are. When someone is moved or touched, the response in others tends to create a struck sense of silence, sometimes silent tears, and a kind of stillness and captivation. Greater consciousness is brought to bear into that moment to absorb the fullness of what's being witnessed. In other words, God cannot help but stare at itself through the witness's eyes. In that moment, the person is moving through a depth of experience and a change is taking place. That which is being seen is transforming the witness's paradigm, rewriting histories, shifting and changing future timelines, birthing new opportunities, and rearranging probabilities for them. In other words, the inner transformation that is being created inside of the witness through what they're seeing in your expression sends a ripple of impact through their past, present, and future. For a human body, at least on an energetic level, this is a huge karmic load that is shifting on a templated level. And for a moment, it strikes the human body into a stasis so that process can be moved through easily to completion. A good example of this, I think, is Hugh Jackman's character P.T. Barnum in the movie The Great Showman. His character is struck into silence and stillness as Jenny Lind sings for the first time on stage. Her singing touched something deep inside of him and, as it turned out, did deeply transform many future timelines for him as a result of seeing her sing. How often have you been struck into stillness in this way? Probably not very often if you think about it. These occasions are rare because so few expressors and witnessers meet together in the exact moment where the expressor is absolutely embodying and spiraling through their feminine energy at the same time as the witness is ready to be moved so completely. Firstly, the probability of this perfect pairing coming together at the exact same time is actually quite low. And secondly, the soul tends not to ask for many of these instances as they are often so earth-shattering and paradigm-shifting on an energetic level that we would start to unravel rather quickly if it happened all the time. It's worth saying, to be clear about this, all beings at all times are on both sides of the fence here, seeing and being seen. You're inhabiting it all. So when you are the witness in these situations, the key is to be mindful, present and available and aware for those moments of pure authenticity that touch your whole self and open you up, you could say, to your soul nerve. This creates a tenderness and an authentic movement into your expression as a result, because a permission or an opening is created inside of you. Your being unconsciously says to itself, if others can do it, so can I, I'm not afraid. So what can you do to open more deeply into the response phase of the feminine spiral of creation? Well, most of the groundwork would have been done by you if you've reached this point, in fact, nearly all of it. If you've moved richly and authentically through the process of surrender, play, and then fully open to being seen, then response in many respects will simply take care of itself. It does help to ensure that your expression is seen on the right platform so that you are more likely to elicit a response. It also helps if you embody a sense of openness as keenly as you possibly can throughout this whole process, so that whole swaves of feminine energy can flow through you into expression from source rather than dribbles, although even dribbles are still quite a lot when you appreciate the strength of pure source energy. Remember, this embodiment and surrender into feminine energy and her expression is a case of degree, not absoluteness. If you really want to know what response is being elicited by your expression, the single best way is to ask for it, but on the whole, this is entirely unnecessary, because if other people were deeply moved by something, they will often want to remain silent about it to process it. When they are ready and integrated from the experience, they will simply tell their friends about it or share more publicly about it. There will be a natural drive inside of them to bring others into the kind of internal up-leveling they have experienced through your expression. This is what's interesting about the response phase. It pretty much has nothing to do with you. What's flowed out of you has been received, and that's that. You have no control over the impact, the response, or anything else. And frankly, if you've surrendered deeply enough into the feminine spiral of creation, you just won't care. Being in the spiral will be enough for you to feel full, home, and satisfied. This means that often the only way you'll know there is a response happening is that you'll notice more eyeballs will be showing up for what you're expressing. Expecting praise so that you can build yourself up through this process will often lead to disappointment, as the instantaneous reward of acknowledgement is often not forthcoming, unless you ask for it. The annoying thing about it is that whether you are fully authentic and letting source flow through you so that others are moved into static silence, or you're inauthentic and elicit no response because no one is moved, essentially, you may well be faced with abject silence either way. So realistically, it feels very vulnerable going through this process, as there is little to orientate you to how well you're doing. So rather than the hopeful expectation of reward from your expression, of the Divine Feminine, simply anchor into and commit with your whole soul and self to the feminine spiral of creation itself, and trust that this will be reward enough. Thank you so much for moving through the feminine spiral of creation with me. I hope you've got a lot out of this 4-part series, which started with an introduction in one whole video. So there's actually been 5 videos. So I really hope you enjoyed it and you got a lot out of it. And if you feel called to go deeper with this work, I invite you to hop onto a 20-minute Business Ascension call with me, where we're going to dive into your Akashic Records and source one golden nugget that's going to help you learn what is needed for you to 10x your business income. I'll then feel into what resources like podcasts or books or influencers or courses or anything that I feel like will help you with this next step. And we'll do a call-in of your guides and all of your Akashic masters and beings that are supporting you with this process, so that you feel held and supported as you step into this next phase in your business. These calls are free. I have a limited amount each week, and they're really a sustainable way for me to serve my community. A very small handful of people that join me on this call will be invited into another deep, also free call to really create the plan for the insights that came through from your Akashic Records. So if you feel called to dive in, I invite you to book in through the link in my banner. It's also in the link below this video, and I hope to see you there. I will see you in another video very soon. Take care. Bye.